In this video, we'll create a Sanctum collection with a bunch of requests. We'll see how we can access the csrf cookie and automatically include it as a header for every request in the collection. And I'll also show you how to create different environments to test your Laravel API. Now, this video is part of my upcoming Mastering Auth course. If you want to learn everything about Sanctum, how to configure it, how to debug it, and also get access to starter kits for all kinds of front-end and mobile frameworks, go to Mastering Auth and join the mailing list for a big discount when the course launches. Back to the video. The first thing we're going to do is create a new collection to group all our requests. I'll call this Sanctum. Then we'll add our first request, which of course will be the Sanctum csrf cookie request. So let's name it csrf cookie. And I have Laravel running under localhost port 8000. So we'll do http localhost port 8000 /sanctum /csrf cookie. I'll save it and then we'll hit send. We get a successful response and we can even see the cookies being set here. The second request we're going to make is the login request. This will be of type post to localhost port 8000 /login. We'll go ahead and add the accept application JSON header. We'll go to body, form data, email, which will be test@example.com, and the password, which will be password. Let's go ahead and save it. I'll name it login under the Sanctum collection. And then I'll hit send. And we'll get our first error, which is a 409 response csrf token mismatch. This is to be expected because we haven't sent the csrf token header. So let's add it. I'll go back to our csrf cookie request to grab the csrf token, paste it in, hit send, and it still doesn't work. The reason for that is because Laravel encodes the token. So let's go ahead and find an URL decoder. I'll go here, paste the value in, hit decode, and grab the new value. Go back here, replace this one, hit send, and there it is. We now have a successful response. But of course, doing all this copy, paste, go in the browser, paste it in, decode, grab the token, bring it back, set it as a header. You can't be doing this manually. We need a way to programmatically get the token and set it as a header. And we can do that with something called a pre-request script. And this thing does what it says. It's some JavaScript running before the request is being sent. Now, Postman stores the cookies in something called a cookie jar. And we can access it like this. We'll do const jar equals pm from Postman cookies and then call the jar method. To grab a specific cookie value, we can do jar get, pass it the URL, which is our front-end URL, http localhost, and in my case, it's port 5173. We'll then need to pass the cookie name, which is X-XSRF-TOKEN. I'll grab it from here. And finally, we need to pass a callback function, which will receive an error or the cookie value. Let's go ahead and console log these and then send the request. Let's open up the console. Right here is this little tab. And we have an error saying programmatic access to localhost is denied. In order to fix this error, we need to go to our cookies here and add the domain to our allow list. So I'll click this and say localhost. Click add, close this, send it again, and now it's working. The error is null and then we have the token here. Our next step is to add the cookie value as a header. And we can do that with pm from Postman request add header, and this accepts an object which has a key. This will be the name of the header, so X-XSRF-TOKEN, and then value, which will be cookie. Now we can go back to our headers, remove this manually added header, hit send, and we now get a 404. That's because we are authenticated and it tries to redirect us to the dashboard. Let's go ahead and clear out the cookies. Go to csrf cookie, make the initial request, make the login request, and here it is. Now, of course, we need to send the csrf token every time we make a non-get request. So instead of copying and pasting the script everywhere we need it, we can just add it to our entire collection. So I'll cut it from here, go to Sanctum, this is our collection. You can just double-click this, go to pre-request script, paste it in, and now this will run for the entire collection. Let's test it out again. I'll clear out the cookies. Wait, X. And then this is the csrf cookie request. And then log in, still successful. So we now just use this everywhere. Let's go ahead and test our authentication. I'll go and make a new request, this time to http localhost 8000/API/user. This should give us the user details. I'll save it as user under the Sanctum collection. Let's also add the accept application JSON header. Hit send, and we're getting a 401 unauthorized response. Let's open up the console and see what headers we're sending. We're sending the csrf token, and this is to be expected because otherwise we would receive a 409 response. And then we have the cookies, so csrf token and the session. But what we are missing is the refer header or the origin, whatever you prefer, because Laravel checks if the request is coming from frontend. So if you go to our ensure frontend requests are stateful, we have this check here, and this method checks the refer or the origin header. It makes sure this is included in our Sanctum stateful domains list. So basically we need to grab the frontend URL and add it as a refer header. So we'll do refer, paste that in, I'll save it, hit send, and it still won't work. We still have a 401 response, but that's because Laravel, in our Sanctum config file, here it only gets the domain, it doesn't get the port. So we need to add something like this here. So I have localhost and then 5173. So it's basically this one right here. I'll save that, hit send, and there we go. We now have a 200 response. This is the user details. Of course, we'll need to send the refer with every request. So let's grab this, delete it from here, and add it to our pre-request script. I'll go here and add PM, request, add header. Key will be referrer or origin, whatever you prefer. And then the value will be the frontend URL. Let's send it again, and there we go. Now, of course, you should be able to use this collection with different environments. You might have your local environment, your staging environment, production environment, QA, whatever else environments. So let's go ahead and create an environment. I'll go here, hit create. I'll name this Sanctum local, and here we can add our variables. Some good variables to add will be the frontend URL and, of course, the API URL right here. So let's add them. I'll have API URL, and this will be localhost port 8000. Then we'll have frontend URL, and this will be localhost 5173. I'll save this, go to our Sanctum collection, select the Sanctum local environment, and here, in order to grab the environment variable, we can use PM from Postman, environment, get, and then API URL. and we even have autocomplete. For the front end, oh, actually here needs to be front end URL, sorry. Then we'll add this here as well. Let's test it out. I'll go to user, hit send, and it's still working. Let's also replace this one. We can use curly braces, and we have it here. So API URL, save it, go to login, replace this one, save, go to csrf cookie. We'll do this /sanctum/csrf cookie. Hit save. Let's close all these and clear out the cookies and start testing. Send, we have a success response, send, success response, and the user. Now let's go ahead and create a different environment we can use. I'll go here, duplicate this one, and say this one will be the production environment. Now I already have a domain pointing to localhost 8000 called sanctum.test. Actually, for the API, I have API sanctum.test. And for front end, I use the top level domain, so sanctum.test. Let's save this, go to our collection, change the environment to Sanctum Production, get the csrf cookie. This is successful, but the login won't work because, of course, we need to update our Laravel environment file. So this is the API URL, so api.sanctum.test, and here I have sanctum.test. And another thing we need to do is set the session domain. This needs to be the top level domain because by default it would be api.sanctum.test, and that would mean that the cookies won't be available on the sanctum.test domain. So we need to make sure we set session domain to our top level domain. Now let's go back to Postman, hit send, and we get a csrf token mismatch. Why? Send again. Let's inspect this. I'll open up the console, go here, and the csrf token is like an empty line or something. Let's go ahead and debug. I'll go to our pull request script and do console.log error cookie. Open up the console, send the request, and we have the same error. Programmatic access to sanctum.test is denied. That's because we need to add this domain to our cookies domain allow list. So I'll go here, add sanctum.test, close this, send it again, and there we go. We are now having a successful response. Let's get the user, and here it is. So we can now toggle between Sanctum Local and Sanctum Production. Of course, if you're just testing this locally, you'll have to update your environment every time you change that. And that was it. You can go here and add as many different environments you need to test for. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, share it, subscribe, click the bell button, all that good stuff.